Hey, friends, welcome to another episode of Live Boldly with Sara. Grab your journals. Today, we're going to be talking about suffering, why all suffering is not bad. We all experience it, it's a part of human nature. And what do we do when we are in those moments of suffering? What does it teach us? What can we learn from it? How can we grow from it? I went on a 20-mile snowshoe hike last weekend in Yosemite National Park, 10 miles with over 2,000 foot elevation gain, by the way, 10 miles into a ski hut and then 10 miles out. And it taught me a lot as I was climbing to the ski hut. We were going up the side of this mountain and I lost it. I was just exhausted. And I laid down into the snow, literally fell into the snow and started to cry. And what that moment taught me reminded me of is how not all suffering is bad because it teaches us how to have more compassion, empathy, grace, right, towards others that are also in their moments of suffering. The week prior to, I had been climbing the Grand Canyon with a group of women and one man. And as we descended into the canyon, there were moments that my group was suffering. It happens. Like you're climbing into the Grand Canyon, one of the seven wonders of the world. I have moments of suffering when I'm down there too. And then climbing out, it happened again. And as I was walking beside my clients or ahead or behind them, watching them, first of all, it's so much gratitude. Like it's such an honor to walk people through that space and for them to find what they are capable of. But it's also super cool to watch people, to witness people find that strength through their suffering. And when I was climbing up the side of this mountain in Yosemite National Park, I was thinking, wow, how interesting it is that as a leader, I'm now in their shoes and how good that was for me to experience because it's really important for us as leaders to also experience what others are going through, those people that we are guiding, right? It puts us in their shoes. And so when I was literally like laying in the snow crying, and I truly was crying, I sat with what do I do in these moments of suffering? And how can I, as a leader, as a guide, further understand other people's suffering and help them through theirs? And it reminded me of what I did with my clients when we were in the Grand Canyon as we were hiking out. And I've done this with a number of my clients. And this is one really cool tool to use when you are in your suffering, is to remember that every moment of suffering is simply a step forward in your own growth. So when we are climbing out of the canyon, for example, I always take them through, okay, how many steps can you do at this moment? How many steps can you take? And when I was climbing up the side of that mountain, I started with 100. I actually start with 500. That's just something that I like to do. I start with 500. Okay, can I take 500 steps? And I knew once I hit like 20 that wasn't going to happen. And so then I thought, okay, well, can I hit 100 steps? And I wasn't capable of it. I couldn't do it. And so then I thought, okay, well, can I take 50 steps? And I started counting to 50. Okay, Sarah, you can do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I just started counting out my steps to 50. Couldn't do it. So then I thought, okay, well, let's break it down even more. And this is literally breaking down the problem of suffering, right? And I went down to 20 and I thought, okay, can I do 20 steps? And I could barely do 20 climbing up the side of that mountain. It was literally one step in front of the other. And I'm talking baby steps, my friends. We're not talking big steps. We're talking serious baby steps up the side of that mountain. And I made it to 20 and then I would stop. And I realized during that time that this literally is a lesson in breaking through your suffering, right? It is a lesson in taking the smallest steps because even the smallest steps get you to that goal or that destination that you're ultimately searching for. I oftentimes, like, here's a little sidestep here. I oftentimes say life is not about the destination and it's not even about the journey. Life is about the moments within that journey that we have that then lead us to that destination. And that's what it was going up the side of that mountain. It was hard, let me tell you. And the person that was standing in front of me, I was with a friend and he was recording me at one point, and I literally was like out loud saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up. And I got to that 20 and I just started laughing because I was like, wow, this is such a metaphor for life. We all go through that suffering at some point, if it's through death, if it's through divorce, grief, whatever it is. And it's through that suffering that we find this greater version of ourself. There is something that I read today when I was literally going through like about suffering. I was reading about suffering, and it's this thought process that in existential positive psychology, there's this theory, and it's dedicated to exploring the relationship between suffering and happiness, and the belief that true, authentic happiness can only come from experiencing pain and hardships. That is where we find the meaning in our life. And we all go through it, my friends, all of us. I've gone through it many, many, many times where, sometimes in that deepest pain, we don't want to get out. And we also have to have this true belief that through our deepest pain, we find that light that shines brighter than we ever thought imaginable, right? And that goes into Dr. Edith Eger's quote, which I always say, I live by this. We all walk through the valley of darkness at some point in our life. What's important is that we don't set up camp there. And so it's within those 20 steps, right, that I was not setting up camp in my suffering or in my pain. And I also was finding gratitude for the suffering, because then I can also see my clients in the way, right? Because I'm the leader, I'm the guide. I can see my clients through that lens of their own suffering in that moment. It gives me empathy. It gives me gratitude to be in that space, to hold space for them as they're also walking through their journey as well. The other thing is we were climbing up the side of that mountain, and I was like, oh my gosh, I realized we weren't going to make it to the ski hut until dark. And I want to bring something up here. So often we look to the negative. We look to the what could happen, right? In the not such a great way, before we look at the what is this gift giving us? What is this unfolding giving us in this moment? Where can I find the gift within that suffering or within that unexpected that's coming our way? We had no intention of taking 10 and a half hours to get to the ski hut. It was 10 miles. I'm like, that's more than 1 mile. That's like less than 1 mile an hour. That is not very fast. I never would have thought that it would have taken us that long. And in that unfolding, right, of time, in that unfolding of time and not expecting that to happen, we saw the most epic sunset I ever have seen on the side of that mountain. And so we got up to this crest, right? And I was saying, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's going to get cold. We're not going to get there until past dark. And it was in that moment of, okay, wait, what is this giving us? What is this gifting? Not even giving, what is this gifting us? And we turned around and looked, and we just happened to be in the most incredible spot on the side of that mountain to witness the most unbelievable sunset, where the sun was setting and the clouds were below, and it was so beautiful. It was absolutely so beautiful. The clouds were like covering this entire valley, and they were puffy, and just witnessing, like they looked like little cotton balls, right over top of that valley, and then witnessing the sun set and this little crescent of a moon rise to the left of us was one of the most beautiful things. And then in that darkness, witnessing then how through that sunset and that moon rise and through that darkness, all of these stars came out that were so clear and so beautiful. And standing on the top of that mountain and just seeing the sky in a different way, that was the gift of the suffering that I did not expect to have, right? That was the gift in the unexpected. And, most people, I think sometimes, well, I don't want to say most, but a lot of people do go to it's dangerous. What if we get too cold? What if we get in there and we end up getting the worst possible bunk pot, to sleep on, which, by the way, it wasn't also great sleeping on the third bunk, climbing over two people to get to the top. But yet at the same time, it was like, well, that's just a part of it, right? That's just a part of this journey that we are on. It's the unexpected. And it's not when we can go to the possibilities, when we can go to what is the gift in this, right? When we can go to that instead of the negative right away, because life isn't about that. It's not about the negative. It's about living in this moment and really appreciating what we have in this moment, in that present moment. It's not about all the things that could go wrong. It's about all the things that are going right. And so that is that is my journey of suffering up that mountain, and the gift that we had along the way. It was just so miraculous. And the people that we met, oh my gosh, the gentleman the hut keeper that was taking care of that hut, 79-year-old Howard. Oh, Lord, did I learn a lot from him. The next morning when we got up after we had our breakfast and we stood outside of that ski hut, and he told us some of the stories of him and the journeys that he had during, like, over those mountains. And it was just so cool to reflect on his life and what those mountains have gifted him, and how he's living today at 79 years old, still, not snowshoeing, skiing. He's skiing. He's smarter than us in that way because it took us a lot longer. And snowshoeing is really hard when you're breaking a trail yourself. Anyhow, so and the journey of his skiing out to that ski hut, and taking care of it through the years, it was just such a cool reflection and such a great story to hear. And then the next day, and we took off, and we climbed back to our car. We took the most amazing 2-hour lunch. We took the crest line, so we didn't end up taking the same trail back, but we blazed our own and took the crest line. The Horizon Ridge Trail is what we were on, and we took the crest right along the mountainside and saw the most epic, oh my gosh, the most epic peaks on the way back, and the valley below. And it was so beautiful. It was such a bluebird day. And then also looking out and realizing that one of the mountains, Vogelsgang Peak, is one that I had suffered through a few years earlier on the High Sierra Loop, and how me climbing that, right, in that suffering a few years prior to, and then being able to see how far that I've come in that perspective shift. It was just the most remarkable, beautiful journey of 20 miles. Hard. There was a lot of suffering, and it was absolutely worth it. We called my dad when I got home, when we got back to the car, and we talked to him about that. And he said, "Oh, you guys, why do you do this?" And I said, sometimes it's a really cool thing to push yourself to see how far that you can also go. And I will say that I'm going to give you my whole public service announcement right now too. You have to be prepared, my friends, because people do put themselves in positions and situations that are dangerous and can be life-changing, in literally taking their life, right? Like some of the things that have happened in Southern California right now in the mountains because people are going out and not being prepared. One of the most important things that we can do is to be prepared mentally, emotionally, physically, and also taking guidance from those people that have been there before, like I did with Howard, like hearing his stories. That gave me a lot of guidance for my future treks out in the mountains as well. And so, yes, it's important to push yourself. Yes, it's important to see what you are capable of. And please do so having the guidance from others that have also been there. That's why I do the work that I do. That's why I guide in the canyon. That's why I teach people what I teach, because I have been there. I'm in this over 10 years of climbing mountains and putting myself in situations, and really pushing myself out of my comfort zone and learning so much along the way, and understanding that you have an intuition that tells you when enough is enough and when to stop and turn around. That's what this journey does. It teaches us so much about who we are through our suffering, right? And so with that, please remember that we do have a Grand Canyon trek coming up in June. It's the 9th through the 13th. It is the last one of 2024. If you are interested, please reach out to me. Let's get you into a conversation and see if it's the right fit for you. This includes a 3-month journey of deep self-exploration guidance. It is so much fun. Oh my gosh. I love these. I just met with a group that I ran back in July of 2020. They happened to be in town. And so we walked the beach together, and seeing how far that they've come from that journey in 2020 is just super cool. And so if this is something that you'd be interested in, message me. Let's get you in. Just remember that it is also co-ed, so male, female. And I love, love, love running these, and would love to have the conversation with you too. So Please go spread this into the world, this podcast, to help others to learn and to grow as well and be a part of this ripple effect of living boldly. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you, and have an absolute amazing, beautiful, beautiful day yourself.